Hey everybody, this is James Pelton. I hope you're having a good Tuesday. I'm having a good Tuesday because my internet actually was out yesterday, and you forget how reliant on internet we are in today's society. But it was amazing. I was like, well, I guess I can't work. My internet's down. I'll watch a show with the kids. It's like, oh, I can't watch a show with the kids because everything relies on the internet. So just a crazy day. So happy to have the internet back. Happy to be back with some AMAs. Today we have Steve with Topaz Global. So I'm excited to talk through this. It's going to be some Forex trading, and we'll talk through all that it is, opportunity for you guys to make passive income. Again, I'm just on the lookout for passive income opportunities wherever they might be, whether it be in crypto, Forex, wherever. I just want some passive income. So if you're here in the audience, please hit the like button as always and comment. I should come up with a question before I get on. That would be the good, responsible YouTuber thing to do, but I had never done that, even one time. But let's go with just a standard. We haven't had an AMA for a while. Let's do the standard. Where are you watching from? So, and Funny Turo, good to see you. You don't need to answer where you're watching from. I know you very well. But everyone else, besides Funny Turo, where are you watching from? Appreciate that. And if you have questions as we're going, please do ask. Direct the conversation as you feel that you would like more information. So, Steve, thank you so much for hopping on with us here today. Could you start with just quick introduction of yourself, your background, and then we'll jump into Topaz Global?
Yeah, absolutely. So, James, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to get started here and share the opportunity. So first off, I've been in the traditional finance space for decades, primarily as a founder. In fact, I've started 3 fintech companies back, I hate to say, late 90s was the first, the gray, and all really in consumer-facing fintech payment related companies. So the first company was really focused on consumers who needed or wanted to pay bills in person, sold that in 2000, and then started another company that was more international based, helping immigrant consumers directly pay for things back home. That grew incredibly fast, exited that in 2015, and then really got directly into the remittance space. So think of the Western Union type service, created a mobile remittance product. And that was focused on a number of different markets, and then ended up exiting that in 2021. So sort of been in this traditional space for a while. Most recently, I'm now running a small public company out of Canada that's really in the crypto space. We focus on onboarding and offboarding. So that's sort of my professional background. Been at this for a number of years, started 3 companies, exited all 3. And then most recently, as we'll get into here, got involved in what I think is an incredible opportunity, and excited to bring it to the community here.
Okay, very good. No, I like that. I like to hear. I would say you have more credentials than most of the people that I bring on to the channel. So it does make you, knowing that you've started businesses and exited businesses, bolsters some confidence that you might know what you're doing. So excited to hear that. I got a lot of people in the audience. Appreciate all you guys. Thank you so much for your support day after day. And Davis right off the bat says, is this going to be a JP NFT opportunity? And potentially, we're going to be talking about that. So you guys are on top of things already. So let's go ahead. Can you give us I like to start with a kind of an elevator pitch of what is Topaz Global? What did you set out to create? And tell us just a little bit about the community there.
Yeah, absolutely. So about a year ago, I was introduced to the developers of this algorithm. And I've since then, of course, played around in the DeFi space, and as most of your community, tested out some of the crazy sort of schemes out there, and the 1% a day, the 2% a day, all that fun stuff, just to kind of see what was happening in the marketplace. I'm fortunate, largely unscathed, but several bruises along the way, trying to get through and navigate some of those, what you would call, oftentimes rug pulls or Ponzi schemes. And so when this was brought to me, I knew the opportunity I knew it was possible to generate, I would call, above market returns. But, you have to sort of navigate through some of these landmines. And so I dug into, when I met these guys, I sort of dug into exactly what they were doing, how they were doing it, and ultimately, decided it was an incredible product that they have built. And so I signed on to help. So essentially, I invested in the group, and now helping them bring it to market is really what I'm trying to do. And there's a bunch of things that are a little bit different than maybe some of the stuff that you've heard in the past. And so I wanted to sort of spend a little bit of time on those details, because I guess from an elevator pitch standpoint, the goal with this algorithm is to deliver above market returns with a minimal amount of risk, right? And to do that consistently over a period of time. And so I know, of course, that's what every investment wants to do. But the way this was developed, and again, we'll share some of the details, I think allows us to do that. And we've proven that, I think, over the last couple of years. So that's sort of the quick, summary of what this does. But it's really the details, I think, that separates us from what others have been doing in the space.
Okay, very good. Yeah, love to dig into this. So yeah, audience, if you have specific questions, again, we've seen a lot of Forex algorithms and things like that. So yeah, let me know your questions and we'll bring those up as we can. First question that I have is, when you talk about what kind of returns have you been seeing with this, and how long have you been seeing that for?
Yep. So the product, the algo's been actively trading essentially family and friends money for 2 years now. And we've seen an average of between 4 and 6% return per month. And so maybe what I could do, James, if it's the right time, just bring up a couple of slides just to kind of share some of that data so people can see it.
Yeah, that would be great.
So how's that? Can you see that?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, great. So first off, I know you've talked about this a little bit. So back testing is important, but it's not sort of the be all and end all. But I did want to show that the team had put together many years, 6 years of back testing, and the returns have been significantly better than the overall market. So first wanted to show that that's important. But what really is important, of course, is what actuals have been. And so here's sort of the monthly actuals since the algorithm has begun trading with real dollars. So again, since June of 2021, this is how the returns. It's never had a negative month, which again is important. We're looking for consistent results. And I'll come back to December. So you'll see sort of December is always consistently lower than other months. I'll talk about that in a minute. But you'll see, we've consistently returned, anywhere from in the 3% range all the way up to, nearly 10% in some of the more highly volatile months. And then most recently over 6% last month. So the algorithm, is again very consistent over a fairly long period of time. But there's a couple of things that I think are important, and again sort of separate us. I won't get too much in. Generally, hopefully people know the Forex market is by far the largest market, in the world, way bigger than NASDAQ and others, which really makes it very liquid, and typically not because it's so big, there's not massive moves, right? It's not like some of the crypto space. If you're trading, altcoins, they can move, 50% in a day without a blink. That's not how the Forex market works. Because it's so big, it's hard to sort of move it. Although we do look for some level of volatility, it makes it a little bit safer where there's not massive moves. The first thing that we do that I think is important is we only trade the largest pairs, right? We're not in trading, crazy exotic currencies. It's important. We only focus on the 13 largest pairs. So again, when you're dealing with large currencies like this, the fluctuations are reasonable, even in highly volatile times in the market, and they're oftentimes predictable, which we'll talk about in a minute. But again, this was an important part. We're not trading exotic pairs, just the biggest ones. But the details around sort of how this algorithm works is important. So first off, it really focuses on Fibonacci trends. And here's one of the key things. it is a high frequency trading algorithm. And so what does that mean? In our case, what it means is every day on every individual account, there'll be between 250 and maybe over 700 trades every day. And so what that means is the algorithm takes small bets and takes small wins on each of those bets, right? So we're not looking for home runs. It's not like we're taking just long bets with large pieces of capital. And if we're wrong and the market moves against us, that has a major impact. These are literally hundreds and hundreds of trading that's done in short time frames based on trends, and then exits happen as targets are hit. So it doesn't look for buying bottoms and selling tops. It simply looks for small wins along the way. And so we do that with one of the largest brokers in the world, right? That's the first thing I want to stress, is that some of the scams out there have been essentially fake brokers. I've watched some of those sort of come and go. We want to be as transparent as possible. Today, all of the trading that happens on XNES. So the community is more than welcome to look them up. They had $3 trillion of trades in February, just to give you some sense of their scope. And they've been audited by Deloitte and Touche, which you could see on their website as well. We actively manage the algorithm. So what that means is we don't just set it and forget it. We actually do certain things like ahead of the US FOMC rate meetings, we'll shut it off because that's typically times of high volatility. We wait for that to settle. So typically we'll shut it off the day before. Once the market settles after the announcement, it gets turned back on. So there's a number of things that we do around sort of actively managing it. And then most importantly to me, and really one of the reasons I ultimately chose to get involved, is these are not high leverage, high margin trading, right? And again, when you hear sort of projects that are talking about 25, 30, 60% returns per month, if they're even legit, it's typically because, they're high leverage trading that's happening. And that's where you get in trouble, right? We all know you can potentially get a 30% a month return, but you can't do that consistently over time. I always say, plug in 30% return on a $50,000 investment, you'll be the richest person in the world in a few years if you compound that. It's just not realistic, right? So what we really focus on is little to no leverage and little to no margin, which I think is an important part about keeping it consistent. We know if we can ramp those up, the returns could grow in the short term, but ultimately, liquidations start to take over and you make the wrong bets. So that's an important part. I have, what I want to stress to the community is me coming on board was really more about trying to attract sort of the bigger investors around the world that might want to have access to, an investment of this nature. What we're not resourced to do very well is the smaller investor, right? We don't really have the resources available to both target and service smaller investors that might want to make $500 or $1,000 investments. And so when I saw, James, what you were doing with the NFT, I really thought it was a perfect vehicle for sort of delivering this to a market in your community that may want to get involved, start off small, maybe grow it over time. But sort of a great marriage in terms of what you have available and sort of the product that we have in the market. So I thought it was a great opportunity. We'll hopefully get that up and started as the guys had asked initially. And I think that's a great way to approach it. The simplicity of what you've created is I think incredible. So we're excited to try to get connected.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's and this is totally the type of project that I've been looking for with my NFTs, because when I ask, what's the average monthly return, I'm hoping to not hear 20%, 25%. That's where I'm like, okay, next. But right. that I've found that 4 to 6% is kind of the sweet spot of like, hey, can be sustainable at least for some period of time. Couple questions. Well, actually, I'll let you go ahead and finish the slides, and then I have some questions that have come up as we're going. But let's wait till the end of the slides, and I'll go through those.
Okay, perfect. Really, just one more main slide. I want to talk about risk mitigation. It's an area that's incredibly important to me, and anybody that I personally bring in. And again, so I talked about how we actively manage during all trading hours and use low margin. One thing that you notice in the returns is that December's were typically lower from a return standpoint. The reason for that is what the team has learned over time is that December is typically the lowest liquidity month of the year, and therefore the hardest to predict. And so what they've done to mitigate that, because that when it's harder to predict, that turns into potential losses. Is that typically the last 3 weeks of December, we just shut off the algorithm altogether because of that, right? So lots of people are on vacation. The typical traders in the market aren't around. And so that's a key part of sort of how we manage the risk. Again, I've heard you say it. We are 1,000% on the same page. Yes, we want above market returns, ultimately without any drawdowns or loss of money. And I think that's part of what we've proven here is that this can be managed consistently over a long period of time. And I will say we've never had a drawdown with this strategy, right? With the high frequency trading, the managed risk in terms of how we approach it here. We've never had a drawdown. We've gone into maybe margin a little bit further than we'd like to, but at no time did we ever have to actually do we realize any losses from a drawdown of that nature. So, again, all of those things are important to me. I think they're likely important to a lot of the community here, and wanted to share that. Last thing real quick is for the data guys, like this gives you a sense of the trading that happens, right? So we don't win all our trades. By the way, we win. This trades longs and shorts, by the way, so it doesn't matter the direction of the market. We typically win between 68 and 70% of the trades. The reds here are the losses, the greens are the wins. But really what I wanted to point out in this graph is most of the trades are only open for minutes, right? So this is an hour and 25 minutes. That means most of the trades are opened and closed very quickly, again, based on the trends the algo sees in the market, in how things are trending. And so we typically want to get in and out as quickly as possible and take those small wins. Those small wins is what generates the roughly 5% average per month that we're seeing.
Okay. Awesome. No, this is great info. Very well organized. Thank you for all that. Couple questions. And audience, if you have more questions about the algorithms themselves, feel free to ask. But I wanted to know, how much info do you have on like the algorithm creator themselves? Are they docs? Do you know them, or what's kind of your relationship with them?
Yeah, 100%. So they are part of the team. We talk literally every day. And they're really a group of guys, and they're even mentioned on the website that we put up. So they're guys that have been trading for combined 2 decades. So they sort of know the market, spent a lot of time. I mean, this has been trading actively for 2 years. They've been testing it well before that, right, to get it to the version that's out there and active today. So yeah, know them well, and of course that's an important part for me as well. Not investing in guys that are not being transparent.
Okay, great. No, love that. And then another question that I know comes up a lot is this using Martingale in some way? Again, we've seen a lot of accounts blow up where, we got 20 trades in a row that failed and now our account's at 0. Is that something that this does?
No, it does not. So nothing. It really is the Fibonacci. So it's called Fibonacci retracement. We'll somewhat quickly get out of my depth. I'm not the trader, but again, Fibonacci sort of tracks certain levels, and based on those levels is when it gets in and out of the trades, right? So it's not layering on like Martingale, where it just continues to make those bets in hopes that it turns. These are strictly on on sort of what's called Fibonacci retracement, which is sort of a well-known trading theory, but it does it in a different way. Again, both high frequency and quick, small trades in and out based on those trends.
Okay, very good. A couple questions from the audience that I wanted to bring up. What systems does Topaz Global have in place to ensure funds are handled safe and provide transparency to investors? Do you guys like show the trades done, or what's kind of the process for a user? Do they just send their money? How does that kind of work?
Yeah, well, here's the great thing is we are not money managers, right? So we are algorithm developers, right? So we have over 100, direct clients now. These are typically, higher net worth folks, but they sign up for their own accounts. We link the algorithm to their account. And so there's a partnership there where we have to link the algorithm and get it working. It's their money, their account. They deposit, withdrawal whenever they choose. We have no control or access to those funds other than the trading part of it. And again, that's how we'll set it up here. If we move forward with James, your NFT project, you will have access to those funds. You'll be able to withdraw and deposit at your own time frame and as you wish. But that's the important thing, right? We're not here to pool money. And so there's zero risk on that standpoint. And as you and I had spoken earlier, customers who are, the community here who's interested in just signing up directly and they understand how to KYC with the broker, they're welcome to do that. We could send a link, get them started, and then we'll partner to get the algorithm up and running on their account. For those that are less inclined to be able to do that or want to do that, we can potentially set up the NFT and have you invest that way. But it is important. We're not money managers. We don't care to be. We really want to be the best algorithm developers that we could be.
Okay, gotcha. So then this is not available in the US, correct? If they go direct through you, is that correct?
Yeah, so it's really XNS, right? So XNS is a licensed broker outside the U.S., so they won't take direct U.S. investors. So that is one limitation. And again, perhaps the NFT side solves some of that.
Yep. So that would be the first reason. So this is not U.S. In fact, the first question when you go to XNS is, I certify that I am not a U.S. citizen is the first thing you have to check. So again, an NFT would be a way for you to potentially get into this. And then what would be, if people just go to your website and just click the get in touch, let me bring this back up. What would be like the minimum that, like, can people come and do this with $500? I assume you'd get kind of overwhelmed doing it that way. Do you guys have a minimum, or is it kind of just case by case?
Yeah, I mean, ideally for the algorithm to work effectively, we'd like to see minimum of $3,600, right? And that's just sort of how the trades are managed. So that's sort of what we'd like to see as a minimum. I think it'd be most effective with that minimum again, and that's why targeting investors that may want to invest less than that would make sense with the NFT and being able to sort of to pool those funds and work together.
Okay, very good. And we're already seeing a whole bunch of interest. US based here. I'll be keeping my eye out for an NFT option. Davis says, great. Now you got my attention. I just want to buy JP NFTs. So it does look like there's quite a bit of interest here. Let's see. A few other questions from the audience here, just to clarify a few things. The team looks AI generated. Well, we have Steve on the call here.
They're right.
Yeah, I mean, they are AI avatars, but the team is real. We're talking to Steven right now. So definitely
more rugged and handsome with the AI. So
yep. And also the fact that they're not handling the money means it'd be very difficult for them to take the money and run away or anything like that, because they don't ever get access to the money. They just hook up their algorithm to your XNS account. Rui says, I always ask the same question. Why do they need our money? A lot of people want to know, if you have an algorithm that's doing so well, why are you looking for other people's money? What do you get out of it? What kind of fees do you take? And those types of things.
Yeah, well, of course. So of course we have our own money. That's what we've been doing for the last couple of years is again, trading our own plus, essentially friends and family money. And we continue to do that. So I actually continue to scale in as others do. So it's an important investment, for me. My goal really, again, is to deliver this to the market. I think it's an important product that will continue to do very well. And so I think it's, I'm talking to people that I personally know throughout the world, and they're putting money in. I think it's important to bring it to them. So that's really my goal. Do we make money out of it? Yes. It is a business. So part of how we generate income is we share in the trading fees, right? So that's sort of how that is generated, right? I want to be clear. If the algorithm in this particular case, and again, James, you could speak to how the NFT side works, but anybody that signs up directly is, if you make 6%, you get 6%, right? We don't take or share, 10 or 20% of that. It all goes to the account holder. We just share in some of the trading fees that the broker works with us on the back end for. That's it, and it's a small amount. And we're looking to sort of grow the amount of assets that the algorithm trades.
Okay, gotcha. And for an entrepreneur, this question is kind of confusing, but I understand some people don't think that way. But for entrepreneurs, we always think about how can I grow? What's the next? How do I scale? How do I get bigger? How do I move forward? So that's the reason that you start involving other people in, is it's just the natural next step in scaling and in growing and in doing more with what you have. So, but if you're not entrepreneurial, I understand that hesitation. Is like, well, why even, bother with something like this? But for entrepreneurs, that's not a question that we ask. Why grow? It's just, that's what we do. So totally get that.
Yep.
A couple of questions about the algorithm itself from Boris, which if you're able to answer, that's great. But how do you train and optimize the algorithm to improve its performance over time? Do you anticipate that the algorithm will get better over time? Is that part of what they're trying to do?
Yeah. So of course we're always watching it, but what actually is better is that if you don't have to change it, right? So sophisticated investors, like one thing we explored, to be truthful, is we were going to set this up as a hedge fund, right? And focus on high net worth individuals. And ultimately we may still do that. But what sophisticated investors will ask immediately is, when is the last update? And if you tell them that the last update was last week, they won't invest, meaning it's not ready, right? Like there's still things that are happening behind the scenes. I'm not willing to risk it. And those are actually conversations that I've had with high net worth individuals who have experience in this space. And so what you'd prefer is that you figure out the formula and let it work over time. They want to see that it's effective over a long period of time. The last update for this algorithm was last June, which is a good thing. So of course we'll watch it. If we see that it can be improved in a significant way, we'll do that, and we've demonstrated that. But our preference is that it continues to operate under this version over a long period of time. And again, that's how more sophisticated investors sort of think about this when they're looking to allocate capital.
Yep. Nope. Totally agree. Anytime there's a change, you almost have to restart the timer of how long has this been running for without something that blows it up. And so you like to see, years without any changes would be ideal. So totally agree with that.
Right.
And you talked a little bit about this, but how does the algorithm handle unexpected market events such as sudden price fluctuations or news announcements? I know, like for my current one, we turned it off like around Easter just because there's uncertainty, and we were trading the New Zealand dollar and there was something in the news, so we turned it off for a little while. How active are you guys on that type of thing?
Yeah, it's very much the same. So I covered a little bit of that, right? So we covered ahead of known news events, right? So again, rate adjustments, things like that cause markets to move suddenly. We'll manage around those types of events. But if you think about the last 2 years that this has been actively trading, there's been a lot of events, right? So there's been war, there's been COVID, in parts of this. So so we've sort of lived through some of those unexpected events, and it's handled it exceptionally well. I talked a little bit about how margin gets affected when there's large fluctuations. We typically operate in single-digit margin use, which essentially is zero risk if you think about it as a user. What you don't want is for that to get too big, and it's almost never gotten to a point where we've had to make adjustments. However, because it's actively managed, we do exactly what you just said, James. If there are currencies that we think are going to be impacted, or news events that are impacted, even specific currencies, we have the ability to turn those on and off, and have done so. One thing that we don't trade, as an example, is the Japanese currency. We've learned that that's manipulated a bit by essentially the Fed in Japan, and so we stopped trading that altogether. And so, all of those things we sort of put together in an actively managed state, and do so on an ongoing basis.
Okay. Nope. Great answer. Does the account algorithm automatically scale your invested account with your winnings? Does it compound automatically is basically, I think, the question.
Yeah. So if you do nothing, it continues to compound every day. It makes a little bit of money, and that goes into your capital base. So nothing changes. So again, just as a simple example, if you made 1% today, which was if you had $100 and made 1%, you're at 101. The next day, if you make 1%, it's on 101, right? So do nothing, and it'll continue to compound. We always encourage people to claim, some over time, right? The normal, try to get back your initial, nothing wrong with that. But everybody has their own strategies, not financial advice here at all. Do what you are comfortable with, but you could do either. Let it run and compound, or get your initial back and then let it run from there. It's entirely up to you.
Yep. And you said our keyword, not financial advice. Even have a ticker going for that.
I like that. Yeah.
Are there any other brokers that you can use besides XNES, or is XNES the only one available, and any plans to open that up at any time?
Yeah, so definitely plans. So no, not today, just XNES at the moment today. We do plan on opening it up to additional brokers, and we'll make those announcements as they happen. But as of this recording, it's just XNES.
Okay. Nope. Thanks for that. And then, is there a limit to how much money you can handle or think you can effectively trade with this algorithm? Will you cap investments at some point?
I love it. So this is actually a really good question. And the reason is, in my view, right? I mean, this is somewhat theoretical, but I actually have spoken with guys that have run the trading desk at JP Morgan, right? These are guys sort of in my ecosystem, and I've shared with them what we do today. And the general consensus is, this, of course, cannot scale infinitely, right? I mean, if we had $1 billion, we're likely not generating 6% per month on $1 billion, right? It just doesn't happen. The markets are more efficient than that. And sort of the liquidity providers and market makers end up adjusting as they learn and sort of see how this algorithm would be working. So the simple answer is, it doesn't scale infinitely. We think will continue to return continue to operate at the current levels of return, anywhere below $50 million. And so that's really our sweet spot, right? We want to continue to grow this, and then watch. If we see that it's degrading as we scale, we'll stop taking on new investments for sure, right? So we want to sit in that sweet spot because we're selfish, right? So we have some of our own money in, and we like, that 5%, 4 to 6% per month. And so we want to keep it at that level. If we see that it's slipping because we start to grow, then we'll adjust. But for sure, realistically, it doesn't scale forever. Okay.
Gotcha. And Scott says, I'm suspicious because he's not on a poorly lit webcam in his bedroom or in the front seat of his car. And that is the norm for most guests I have on. So you actually have a background. You could be a YouTuber yourself with that background.
Yeah, that's funny. I love it.
Next, Davis says, have they ever used the EA, the expert advisor, to attempt prop firm challenges? Is that something that you guys have ever planned on doing?
Yeah, haven't spoken about it, so can't answer that one. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Let's see, a couple more questions. And by the way, if I skip your question, the odds are we probably already talked about it. So the replay will be available right when we're done. I'll put in chapters to help you skip around to hear the different pertinent parts. But yeah, we already talked about what type of trading they do. So we're going to kind of skip those questions. Let's see. Okay. Boris says, without being pushy, my question was more, how is it an AI algorithm? Seems like it's a very efficient one, but wondering if AI isn't just making the presentation fancy. Do you want to talk into that? Is that just is it a buzzword, or is there AI, or what would you say to Boris?
I mean, sure. I suppose it is not learning, right? So it's not a machine learning algorithm that adjusts itself for sure. So, we'll call it a little buzzy. I'll be transparent.
Nope, you're good. You're good. Another question I had as I'm looking at the website, do you want to talk about some of the upcoming plans you have? It looks like there's plans to get into crypto options and indexes. And do you want to talk about kind of this roadmap here and when you're thinking about doing that?
Yeah, so some of these are actually in testing right now. So we're actively working on them. And so expect to have something out, call it this year. Again, a lot of these things we don't want to bring to market until both A, we're comfortable, but B, they have a history, right? We don't want to just throw it out there and test with other people's money. So these sort of take time, like we're seeing here with the Forex algorithm. We're just bringing it really to the masses now after a couple of years. So, but that's the goal, is to sort of identify large asset classes and be able to take our learnings here and bring it to some of these other markets. So you'll hear more about that over time.
Okay. And do you anticipate that you're going to be like having separate products for each one? Or are you going to combine them all into one product, or you're not sure quite yet?
Yeah, good thinking. I mean, good question. The idea would be separate products. I mean, I think they're largely different enough. They'll fit in people's sort of portfolios in a different way. Some might have different risk profiles. So we'll likely bring them to market separately.
Okay, gotcha. And then while we're on the website, where does the name Topaz Global come from? I was wondering about that.
Yeah, it's one of the partners. Patrick had come with it. I like it. Just the name itself, but there's nothing intrinsic about it that's related to what we do. But coming up with names, I've done it many times. It's always a challenge. There's services now that you can pay a few bucks that come up with different names. But we did an internal vote, and that's the name.
Okay. Yeah. No, I have the engineering way of naming things. I like my Forex bot is called forexbotnfts.com, and that's how I name things. So
super creative. Yeah, I love
I'm thinking if I do this one, maybe it'll be forexbot2nfts.com. We'll come up with something, but I love that.
Yeah.
Is it possible for investors to modify the algorithm settings themselves according to their risk tolerance?
Yeah, so I've heard you talk about this with the current one, right, where you sort of manage it. So today, there is not any way for you to do that with ours. I mean, I think that's where you start to get into a little bit of trouble, right? You need a lot of experience to sort of understand markets, understand, how those adjustments will impact not only what's happening today, but over time. And so we're more comfortable with sort of what we've built. And again, I'm a simple guy. I think you've said it, James, yourself about you, where I like to be able to just sign up, make it easy, and let it go, right? And know that sort of behind the scenes, we're adjusting if things don't. But to your point, shutting off certain pairs if it becomes a little crazy. We gone dark?
I can still hear you. Kind of. I don't know. It might be my internet. I've been having internet problems. I live out in the boonies, so that's what I get for moving out to an acreage. But no, I think I can hear you now.
All right, good. Yeah. So no adjustments currently. Which I think for most people that makes it simple. Others with more experience, may want to play around with it, but currently we don't allow for that.
Okay. Nope. Sounds great. If people have additional questions, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you to ask additional questions?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe there's a couple ways you can do it on our website, of course, which is a very basic website, right? There's not a lot to it, but you can submit some questions there. maybe I'll give you, my Twitter handle. That's how James and I connected. I literally cold messaged him on Twitter. You can do that. I can give you my Twitter handle here in the comments after, and people could hit me up directly if you're interested.
Okay. Yep. Nope. That would be great. And one question did just flow in. What's the maximum drawdown that you've seen the algorithm encounter before?
Yeah, just over 20%, and it's not a drawdown, by the way. So we've never, but the margin hit, right? We try to keep our margin in a very specific range. The largest is just over 20%, dipping into what's called margin, right? Didn't experience any losses. The market played out the way it played out, and it continued to operate, right? But those are sort of those high fluctuation days where certain trades may be moving against you and you dip into margin a little bit more. But that's how we've managed it. So no drawdowns, just dipping into margin a little bit further.
Okay. Awesome. So as a marketing guy, I like to end with calls to action. So if you have additional questions, go to the website. You can get in touch on WhatsApp. You can email. You can probably call. Steve's going to leave his Twitter handle if you want to get in touch that way. You can ask me, but I'll have to just point you to Steve because he's the man with the answers. So if you have additional questions, go do that. If you'd like to get started yourself, you have to be non-US. You'll probably need, we kind of talked about probably minimum $3,600 or around there. So if you're wanting to do 500, 400, it's probably not going to work for you to do that little. You will have to KYC with XNES, which is not that difficult. You'll have to upload probably a picture of your passport or something like that. And they probably sometimes they have you write on a piece of paper today's date or something and hold it up to the screen. There's some steps you go through. But that's if you want to get involved. I'm also going to be working with Steve. I will put together an NFT collection to help people get in. It'll probably be the standard $500. And we'll get batches of 50K maybe going. We'll get 100 sold out to kind of test out the first batch. And then I may or may not work this into my existing Forex NFTs, or maybe we'll start just a whole new one. We'll talk about that in the Telegram. If you're a part of my community, we'll talk about that a little bit, whatever you guys prefer. So do you feel like I missed anything there, Steve, or was that pretty comprehensive?
So two quick things. I think you nailed it. But in terms of signing up for XNES, for anybody that's looking to potentially do that, let me get you a link, James, that you can attach maybe to the comments here. And it's really it's important to sign up via the link because that's the only place that you can get you can't just randomly sign up for XNES and see the algorithm. It's not public. It'll only be sort of under our account, and that'll be the link that I send. Again, it's your account, your money, you control it, but the algorithm is not public just for anybody because we don't want to do the $100 account trading, right? So yep. I'll share a link with you immediately after this. So that's number one. And the other thing I didn't mention, I think is really important, is the accounts can be funded with USDC, USDT, right? So it immediately gets converted to US dollars at XNS and begins trading. But you can fund and withdraw in stablecoin, which I think is probably important to the audience here.
Yeah, nope, really like that. There's a lot of brokers that don't let you do that, and it's a huge hassle. If your money's in crypto and you have to send it to your bank, which can take a few days, then you have to send it, wire it in or something like that, which takes another few days, and there's fees all along the way. So, nope, really like that. All right. Let's see. Galaxy Big Bird says, if I live in the US, I can't invest. Correct. So again, when we get an NFT solution, I'll probably do it with Warfi because I'm in the US, so I'm not going to be able to get an XNES account either. So, but we have some, non-US people that we can use to help set this up. Perfect. So, Don wants to know, what if I already have an XNES account? Do you have to create a new one in order to use the right link, or how does that work?
Great question. Maybe. So let me get the answer to that. I mean, again, I know it's not, you can't just publicly sign up. You'll have to sign up and ensure that you're tied to, again, it's essentially a referral link that ties you to, our account there. And that allows us to turn the algorithm on and off for your account.
Okay. Very good. Well, hey, Steve, this was great. We had already talked, but I feel even better about it after, going through it a little bit more in-depthly here. So again, we'll keep talking about getting an NFT collection out and getting this open for everyone. So audience, appreciate you guys. Appreciate you always watching. Appreciate your thoughtful questions and, criticisms and everything that you guys bring. Appreciate you guys and all your support. Again, you're the reason that I do what I do. You're the reason I'm out looking for passive income opportunities. So really appreciate that. And Steve, thank you for bringing this to our attention. And hopefully we can work something out here.
You got it, James. Thanks for having me on. It was a blast. I appreciate it. And thanks to the community. So looking forward to getting this out to you guys.
Yep. Sounds great. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your Tuesday.